Little Hand's Bake Attitude, Book 1, Chapter 18, Breakfast with a Depressed Droplet.
I had never seen a version of chaos so dull and lifeless. The majority of them were running at full tilt, full of rage, and determined to destroy anything that got in their way. Kaya, on the other hand, she'd been defeated all right, defeated to the point she didn't even want to keep going. By the time we were all going to bed that night, she had barely twitched from her place on Maddie's side of the bed. The pulses of chaos energy I'd felt coming from her had eased, letting me know she was truly asleep and hadn't just collapsed again. Maddie and Tom let her be, pulling sleeping bags out of the closet and opting to have a family sleepover in the living room. Right now, I was more concerned about Knuckles. He looked like a whole part of him had just been wrecked out and torn to shreds, leaving him with the pieces settling in his hands. I crawled across the floor to him, putting my hands on his arm.
Matt?
He looked over at me, blinking once before reaching out with a hand.
Hi, Obsidian.
I grabbed onto his hand, trying my best to convey my thoughts without words. I had the appearance of a tiny, clueless infant to uphold after all. He looked back at me and then sighed.
I spent my whole life thinking I came from a noble tribe of warriors, from a family of echidnas, who was doing what was right. But now, it just sounds like they were thieves and killers.
I couldn't argue with his assessment of his ancestors. Time and space were vast, and most versions of his tribe I'd seen had been led by leaders with corrupted ideals, a lust for power that was insatiable. But I also seen many versions of Knuckles, and most of them were just like this one. They were hot-tempered, dedicated to their task, and deep down they yearned for a home, a family. My Knuckles had found a new family, and now he felt crushed by the actions of his old one. I patted his leg with my hand.
You...
I whispered. He looked back at me, a slight smirk on his face.
Look at this. I've been comforted by an infant who wails whenever his diaper is soiled.
I gave him a grin, and then he picked me up into his arms.
I have something for you. I asked Mother to collect it from the market.
He carried me over into the hall and then up into the attic. I hadn't been granted the full honor of coming into their private space yet, but I barely took up the time to look around at everything. I was more interested in what Knuckles had gotten for me. He opened a large chest, and my eyes widened as I saw what was inside. Although the primary contents of the chest were plastic dart guns and other toys Maddie wouldn't let me touch, there was also a large green emerald nestled amongst them. The Master Emerald, one of the greatest artifacts of power in the universe, and they had it hidden in a toy chest. Did Kaya know this? Had she known that they were hiding it up here in their secret sanctum? But it wasn't the Master Emerald that he was collecting. It was a tiny foam stick with a round triangle on the tip, and it was a spear, a foam, completely unharmful spear, but a spear regardless.
Mother believes you are so too uncoordinated to be given a real weapon, but I believe that you can practice while I train outside. Do you like it?
My oldest brother had just given me the closest thing to a weapon he could manage. Of course I liked it. I loved it. I hugged his arm tightly, giving him a big smile.
Aha! I knew you had the spirit of a warrior. We will begin our proper training, and one day I will be certain to give you a true weapon, and we shall stand guard over our village together.
Yes. Yes, we would, because if there was one thing I knew for certain, it was that anyone who tried to hurt my family or take me away from them was going to face my wrath.
The boys easily could have just slept in their own beds that night, but they decided that it wasn't fair that their parents got to have a slumber party in the living room without them. Within 2 seconds, Sonic had a full pillow and bed sheet were set up in the living room, and he probably would have asked to make it a movie night as well. But too much had happened today already, And he was in fact the first person to zoink out. Tom and Maddie took up places on opposite sides of a square, and Tails and Sonic made their other two sides, toes on toes, head on heads. Tails had coordinated it this way after catching the spell Sonic's feet when he took off his sweaty socks and put on fresh ones.
Burn 'em, burn 'em!
Tom teased as he rushed the dirty ones to the laundry room. Knuckles settled on the couch and Obsidian was snuggled up in the center of the square, so either Tom or Maddie could easily reach him if he fussed, which he didn't. He was too busy hugging his new toy spear to be upset about anything. Sonic couldn't believe their mom had agreed to buy the infant a toy spear, even when he knew it had been at Knuckles' request. Ozzy was quite confused about why all his people were on the floor, but he got over it easily, calming down on the other side of Tom and keeping an eye on the household throughout the night. By 10 p.m. all of them were settled and asleep, and they all remained that way undisturbed until about 6 a.m., when the dog was suddenly barking. Everyone sat up looking around frantically for the danger, and then saw Ozzy was barking at Kaya. The girl was crouched on top of the stair banister, like a cat, her eyes glowing at that same bright green from under her sweatshirt hood. Tom quickly got up, realizing what was going on. Ozzy rarely barked unless something got into the house that shouldn't be, and Kaya probably didn't smell right to him, not being human at all.
Hey, Ozzy.
He hissed, grasping the dog's collar and looking back up at the girl who was somehow balancing.
Sorry about that, Kaya.
Everyone was awake now, so they all rolled over either with groans or sighs and climbed out of their sleeping bags.
Good morning. How are you feeling?
I am better, mostly.
Is that why you were on counter yesterday?
Yeah, your canine does not care for me, it would seem.
Yeah, he's a little protective of his people sometimes. You're okay, just come on down.
Kaya hesitated a moment and then carefully climbed down from the banister. And that was when Tom noticed her feet. Yesterday they had been covered by her shoes, but now he could see that they were sort of like a bird's, with two long toes on the front and one on the back. No wonder she was able to hold on and bounce on the banister so well. They were also still that grayish, semi-translucent substance, which he guessed was her actual form, and that the solid teenager form was just a disguise.
There we go. You hungry?
A little.
Okay then, let's find you something. We've got cereal, fruit, yogurt. What sounds good?
Fruit is fine, Mrs. Wojcicki.
Please, just call me Maddie.
Sonic rushed up to her.
My name's Sonic, and this is Tails, Knuckles, and Obsidian.
Tails waved, Knuckles nodded sullenly, and Obsidian just stared at her. Kaya smiled just a bit, and then pulled the quill out of her hair and held it out.
I guess this is yours then.
Yep, they spark and glow for a bit even after I lose one, so that's probably what's causing the sparking.
Kaya shook her head, her smile widening just a little bit.
No, it's me.
She then tapped the little hedgehog's nose with a finger. The hedgehog shivered and the sparks danced across his quills for a second.
Whoa, that felt weird. How do you do that?
It's a long story.
Sonic's smile faded a bit as he seemed to remember that she had gone through some rough times and was still working through it. Maddie then handed the girl a banana and Kaya began to peel it. As Tom looked, he saw the tips of her fingers were wavering between solid and translucent, like she is struggling to keep this other form of as easily.
Hey, if you're not comfortable being yourself right now, I understand. But I want you to know that you don't need to feel like you have to hide your true self here.
Are you sure, Tom?
Absolutely sure.
She looked at them all for a moment, and then got nods, and then she gave another smile.
Okay.
It was like a tiny wave washed over the girl's body, wiping away the human attributes and leaving behind something else. Her hair molded together into a series of fins, and one protruding from the back of her head. Her fingers became two long ones and a thumb. She grew a little taller, her nose disappeared, and left a smooth round face, and Tom was pretty sure that he could see her brain floating inside of her head. though it was blurred out enough that he didn't go weird out by it.
Heels, you are all actually okay with this?
It's the real you, isn't it? So who cares what others think about it?
Really? Wow, normally people run away screaming about me being a monster or a demon.
Knuckles squirmed in his seat a little, and she clearly noticed it.
I'm not mad at you, Knuckles, if that's what you're worried about.
Are you certain?
Of course, I've been awake for a while now and I was thinking all of it over. I was a mess yesterday, but I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at those who came before you, and mostly me. I'm sorry about ignoring you yesterday, but I've been seeing visions of echidnas for centuries mocking me and telling me I failed.
That's your guilt talking. Like I said yesterday, Kaya, I'm sure what happened wasn't your fault, and you don't have to share it right now.
Maybe later.
She mumbled. It was weird. They could see right through the girl and yet they didn't see any of the banana just floating through her body. It just disappeared once it passed through her mouth.
Where does it go?
My kind is just like that. We eat and drink and then over time, depending on our experiences, we evolve into...
Evolve? You mean like a Pokemon?
A what?
Sonic was too mind-blown to properly answer the question.
Tails, we had a Pokemon on our planet and nobody told me? Wait, did you guys have different forms depending on your experiences and stats?
Yes?
We had Eevees on our planet, Tails?
Don't worry about it, Kaya. It's not really important.
Kaya was quiet for another moment, ignoring Sonic's ramblings as she looked thoughtful for a moment. Her brows furrowed and she put her hands onto the sides of her head.
Something is bothering you?
After the meal, Knuckles. After the meal.